What's up, everybody? Dragon Lee here with Syn the Cerealite, and we're here to rediscuss the spoilers that came out today for Dragon Ball Super Chapter 77. So, right before I started recording, you were talking about the fact that the heaters were there. How is that relevant, bro?
Listen, man, I said in my thread a long time ago, I believe I made a thread on, the cooperation between the heaters and the Frieza Force. And my friend Kaiser actually, shout out to him. He actually, brought it up to me that Maki at one point in one of the chapters, I forget the number, but she mentions that, that the heaters and the Frieza Force kind of work together in order to, invade Planet Cereal. But I wasn't aware of that when I was making that thread. I was putting things together, paying attention to what Toyotaro was talking about in the chapters leading up to, now where we are in chapter 77. And it really intrigued me because I do like the heaters. I do like them as a group. I like them as a set of characters. They're basically the official BoJack, the group. They're basically them, but canon. And basically, like I had told you a long time ago when I was making the thread, I was like, I believe that the heaters found out about Planet Cereal and they tipped it off to Frieza, and they said like, these people on Planet Cereal, they have an ability, they're great at sniping, and it could be detrimental to your group of Saiyans. So obviously Frieza was like, well, I can't have that because then my numbers would go down in terms of fighters, and he needs the Saiyans to conquer planets because they're basically the muscle of the Frieza Force. I think they are. And the invasion happens, and when the invasion happens, who shows up? Besides the Saiyans, the Frieza Force. Who else is there watching in the shadows? It's the freaking puppet masters, bro. The heaters. They're there literally during the invasion of the planet, watching as all of this is going down, and they're reveling in it, bro. They're excited that this is happening, and it makes me hate them because they've literally had a granola wrapped around their finger as their personal, hitman. He's literally working for the people that are responsible for the deaths of his race, and I think that's a nice little like detail that is included in the saga because it adds more depth to Granola as a character, and it makes this kind of transition from him working with them to being against them all the more greater, which we hopefully will see in chapter 78. But that's not even the highlight, man. We got to talk about the other stuff, but that's something that really stood out to me, and I'm glad my thread was kind of like foreseeing that in a way. Aside
Yeah.
from Maki talking about it, it's incredible,
Yeah, you were on point, bro. So let's just go based on the order of the summary. So the chapter begins 40 years ago. So full moon, ships arrive. Uh, they're on the farm fields. They become giant apes. There weren't. So, what do you think about the statement that there wasn't many Cerealians and Namekians on the planet at that time? Isn't that kind of strange?
Yeah, I kind of thought it was a little weird. You would think that the planet would be mostly inhabited by Cerealians, but maybe, some of them went off to other worlds. I think, honestly, dude, I think it's
Wouldn't it
kind of
be
like
strange? Wouldn't it be
It's like
strange?
Kentucky.
Yeah, it is. But wouldn't it be It is a lot like Kentucky. You're right. But wouldn't it be strange if the Nameks and the Cerealites both ended up on that planet, like as like a mutual thing to like find some place to live? Like the Cerealites are
So,
not
so
actually
you're
from the
saying that the
planet.
planet was just a planet of its own. It didn't even have like it was void of life until these two groups randomly ended up there and they
Yeah,
took it as their
that's what
own.
it seems like to me. Because if there wasn't very many of them there, that means that either something really bad happened or crazy happened before to dramatically decrease the population, or they both just ended up there because they were stragglers in the universe and they were traveling. It's never really
Yeah,
stated how the Nameks got there, but one can assume that they got there in a similar manner to Kami. They just traveled there through a spaceship.
Well, I don't even think Granola has mentioned before how who came first either. I mean, when he talks about, Monito, he kind of just says like, "Oh, they were like." No, actually not him. It was actually Gas, and I think he's the one that says like that the Cerealians and the Namekians are the only ones the only tribes that share that planet, or have been the only ones that share that planet.
Yeah, and that's strange if they both have a pretty small population. That's just strange to me.
I thought it was interesting because it kind of makes it seem like they kind of have an understanding of each other, and I honestly need to see, I need to see,
We
the
need to
panels
see
for
the manga.
myself.
Yeah.
I need to see the manga and the panels because I am kind of curious, were there more Namekians than Cerealians, or did Cerealians dominate more of the planet than the Namekians?
Yeah.
Like, which had more control?
Well, it seems like they kind of used each other to benefit off each other based on the panels that we've seen from the rough drafts, because it shows, the Cerealites or the Cerealians holding up their water, and it shows the Namecs holding up their, what they're farming. So like, it seems like the Cerealians gave the Namekians water because all they need is water to survive, and in
Yeah.
return they farmed food for the Cerealians. So they just had like they had a mutual relationship with each other.
No, yeah, I agree. I agree. I was kind of thinking about it. I was like, it's interesting to me just how old Monito is. Like, Monito's always looked that old, even from the day of the invasion. One would think that Monito would actually be younger during that time, but no, the dude's really, really old.
Yeah, that is
Considering how
interesting.
long he's lived, he's very old.
Exactly. That's interesting because he probably has knowledge about the Cerealians and the Namecs that Granola is like not aware of at all. Like he has all kinds of like secrets. I bet that he just
Dude,
like
he
never told us.
probably he probably even knows about the book, what was it called? The Namekian Book of Legends?
He might. I mean, he seems
He
like he's old
might
enough to
actually
know.
know about it. Yeah, he might actually know about it. He might actually know more about the Super Dragon Balls than probably the Namekians on New Namek.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the possibilities are endless with Monito if he's that old. So he's the only
Yeah,
one that manages to survive. I guess the reason they gathered all the Namecs up easily is because they're more pacifists. But the fact that they could shoot up their power level, you'd think that they might be a little bit more of a challenge. But the Cerealians must have
right.
been pretty strong, like as a race, for them to not be able to just hobble all them together like they did the Namecs and take them out. Because this states right here that they took the Namecs out first. So I guess that's kind of telling you that the Cerealians had more potential in battle than the Namecs, which makes sense because they could also, because like their sniper race, right? Maybe they also protected the Namecs.
Yeah, yeah, that could be a thing where, in exchange for the Namekians, helping them probably with the Dragon Balls in case of any, like, one of
Well,
their loved ones were to fall to an illness or sickness, depending on, this dragon's, like, list of, like, depending on what the circumstances or situations are when it comes to wishing for, making a wish with this dragon, there seems to become a consequence. I wonder if someone were to get sick or ill, could you wish it away with this one? Whereas with Shenlong, you can't
I
really because
think
it's a
I think
natural illness.
I think the only reason there was a consequence with Granola was because the dragon couldn't make him stronger. I don't think this dragon is like different in the sense that like every wish has a consequence. I just think because of the specific wish that Granola wanted, because he wanted to be the strongest, that was literally the only way that specific wish could be possible is if he did concentrate his life force and kill his lifespan. So I don't necessarily think it's like this dragon is different. I just think that specific wish was only possible through those means.
When put into a perspective like that, you know what? It might just be right.
Yeah. So, okay, so Monito's the Elder Namek. This is kind of a plot hole. I'm not gonna lie. Like I noticed, like so, it's stated that whenever the creator of the Dragon Ball dies, they become stone, right? Did this Elder Namek create the Dragon Balls, the one that hands it off to Monito? And when he hands it to Monito, does he somehow like transfer the ability to, you know, keep the Dragon Ball safe onto Monito, because that's like the only way it would make any sense at that point. Because Monito wasn't the original guardian of the Dragon Balls.
I think that's the case. I mean, didn't that kind of happen in the Moro saga with what was the kid's name with Ashto? Wasn't that his name? They kind
Yeah.
of did the same thing where they passed it on to him
Right.
before the elder died.
Right. Right.
And that's how they were able to survive and keep their bodies because the Dragon Balls had never turned to stone.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I just I didn't know if it was that quick of a process. You know what I'm saying? Just handing the Dragon Balls off to somebody. It just seems like
Hey man, that's just my headcanon, and if there's anything that I have that's, listen, I've been seeing a lot of headcanons with this specific, leaks, and we'll get into that down the road, but I'm just saying, like, a lot of these headcanons, some are right, some are wrong. I just don't think people, I just have to bring this up now. I just don't think people should be fighting over these. You know what I mean?
right. I agree with you 100%. I think people are allowed to have their own perspective. Um.
Mm-hmm.
So, I wanted to talk about the fact that there are 2 Dragon Balls there, and that there are not 2 Dragon Balls later. What do you think happens?
I think Monito just ended up putting a ball back where I'm kidding. Um, um, well, from reading, the leaks, it doesn't seem that there was a lot of room or time for them to be able to, for Monito to be able to wish. I don't think he made a wish.
Yeah, I actually agree with you.
I just,
In my last video, I speculated that he might have made a wish because I thought that would make a lot of sense, given the situation. But actually, after I thought about it for a minute, I was like, well, Monito specifically told Granola that the Dragon Balls are only meant to be used to reward Namekian warriors who were, valiant, basically. And so it would be kind of out of character for Monito to use the Dragon Balls.
I think he just buried it, dude. I think he just buried it and he forgot where he hid it. Because when we find out where the other Dragon Ball is again in the beginning of this saga, the Shugarians are the one that find it. I think they found it underwater, right? Because they had something that was kind of like a net that had the Dragon Ball inside of it.
Yeah.
I think Monito just threw the ball in the water when Bardock was chasing them, or when Bardock was going up to his home later on in the leak. And, he was like, oh, they're probably coming after the Dragon Balls, which kind of, it kind of bothers me a little bit that the Frieza Force and the Saiyans, from what it seems, are not made aware of what the Dragon Balls are or what they were. It seems like they didn't even see the Elder give Monito the balls.
No, they don't find out till well, here's the thing. They could now I don't think that they're supposed to find out what the Dragon Balls are all about at this point. I think they're trying to keep it a secret because of the fact that Frieza went to Namek specifically to go get the Dragon Balls because he overheard the conversation between the Saiyans and stuff, right? So I don't think they want them to find out, but I do think that they want the Dragon Balls to have been right under their noses the whole time to kind of build suspense. You know what I mean? Like,
I just had to bring this up because I know some way or another somebody will either call this a plot hole or somebody call it an inconsistency. And it also did kind of bother me because you would think if, the Frieza Force had seen Monito get the Dragon Balls, they would be like, what are those two little small what are those two star small balls or whatever? You know what I mean?
yeah.
And obviously Frieza by this point should have already found out what a Dragon Ball is and would have gone to Namek and find them. But
yeah, I don't think he finds out. I think Monito just does a good job hiding it because he knows the dangers of it. That would add relevance to the fact that he threw the other Dragon Ball or did whatever he did to it, and he also hid the other one. Is the fact that he prevented them from being able to find out about the Dragon Balls at that point in time. Because if they knew about the Dragon Balls the whole entire time, this entire story would be different. The Heaters would have found out, Frieza Force would have found out, everybody would have found out, and they'd have been hunting planet cereal for the Dragon Balls themselves at that point rather than later on in the story. The Heaters are just now hunting for the Dragon Balls 40 years later. So yeah, I don't think any of them find out. I think it just kind of adds suspense and pressure on Monito to keep the Dragon Balls hidden, basically.
Yeah, going back to what happened with the other Dragon Ball, since he only has one. I really think he just hit it. I think he just hit it. He forgot about it. It's been like what 40 plus years since that attack happened. And it's a coincidence that the one Dragon Ball that he has it in his home with him and Granola as on the display. And the Shigarians, just happened to find it. I just think he hit it. I think he hit it, and he knew that since, if you have two of them together, you can make a wish.
I
And
think
if
it would be really
these were to
cool
fall
if
into
he.
the wrong hands,
I think it would
if
be
these
really.
were to fall into the wrong hands,
Go ahead.
obviously, Frieza could have gotten his wish of becoming the strongest then. So
Yeah.
it's all subverting. He had to hide them. Frieza would never find out about the Dragon Balls then. He would find out about them later through the Saiyan saga. And it's like you said, the story would have just been played out different.
Yeah. I really hope that he tries to hide them both because part of me really wants Granola to find the first one earlier in his life. Like I really like he might keep. It makes more sense for him to keep one of them and just keep it hidden. But if he hides both and Granola finds one, that'll just add a lot of relevance to the relationship between Granola and the Dragon Balls to me. So I really hope that he like tries to find both, or he tries to hide both,
Mhm.
and then Granola finds one later.
No, yeah, that would honestly be interesting. It would kind of be like a bittersweet moment.
Yeah, and it would also explain. I mean, just the Dragon Ball being there would be a reason for Granola to question what they are, but it would also explain why the conversation came up. Like the conversation could just come up naturally because he lives with the man and it's sitting there on a post, so he could be like, "What the heck is this?" at any point in his life. But if he found one, I just think that would be a interesting way for the conversation to come up.
Also, I'm not gonna say this is exactly what it's referencing or like this is where the inspo came from because obviously this is the chapter preceding chapter 76. But I am gonna say that since you were talking about how the Cerealians, since this one particular Cerealian poured all of his power into destroying their moon, so that the Saiyans would revert back to their base, I think this was the same kind of attack that Granola subconsciously was going to do or unleash on Vegeta when Vegeta reverted back to
That
his
is
base
so cool.
in 76.
That is
And
so
if it
cool.
is, then I believe that is the Cerealians all out attack whenever
What
they're,
if what
backed
if
into
that
our corner.
Cerulean is Granola's father?
Listen, man, Granola's father is Bardock, and I don't care what anybody says, right? That's my headcanon. That's my fanfic now.
No, dude, I'm telling you, it would be so cool if it was his father, and his father was the one that stood up against him and tried to destroy the moon.
If that is the case, honestly, I would like that, but I I really don't understand why they chose to focus on one parent and not the other one.
Yeah, that's why it would make sense to me that it's his father because they only did focus on the mom. It would make a lot of sense to me that he was out there trying to destroy the moon while they're trying to hide. You see what I'm saying? But we'll
Yeah,
see. If
and
he looks like Granola, we'll see. Like if he looks a lot like Granola, then it's a possibility in my mind.
no, I agree. We got to talk about this because this is what I said in my thread, my first ever thread, which I'm proud of, which was when I was trying to go over who the three Saiyans were in the flashback.
Right.
And it confirms right here in this chapter that it's Leek and Taro who also joined Bardock in the
Right.
invasion of Planet Cereal.
Right.
And we come to find out that Leek gets his forehead scar from the Cerealian who destroyed the moon. So this chapter, this invasion marks the first time that Leek gets his scar that we see in Dragon Ball Minus and we see in Dragon Ball Super Broly.
Yeah, I know, bro. That like you called that. That was so cool.
Such significance. I honestly think this is very cool because I'm pretty sure Toriyama and Toritar did not see the saga, ahead. but they're trying their
They always
best to
make it
like
seem like they
con
did. They know what
yeah,
they're doing.
they're connecting everything. That's right. They're having connective tissue to the story and the present of what's happening with Goku, Vegeta, and Granola, and I really dig that.
Kind of
I
like in the
really
mo-
dig that. And
Kind of like in the new
exactly.
movie. Kind of like in the new movie, how they're seeing everybody as bad guys. At least in my opinion, we don't know that for a fact. But and then like Mr. Satan's name is literally Mr. Satan. Like he's just really good at like having these ironic twists and ironic plays on stuff that he's done earlier in the story.
I think those type of things right now for Super is what makes the story interesting. And I know for a lot of people, they gloss over these little tidbits. I think these little tidbits is what keeps me going and interested in the story.
Yeah, because it
And
fleshes out the past as much as it does the future, and that's what's so cool about it. Because every time they do
yeah,
that, you get a clearer picture of everything that you had already known before. You know, it's cool to see new material, and it's cool for Dragon Ball to try new things. But I look, the idea of learning why everything is the way it is, like in the past, and to a greater degree, I love that because to me, it's just like I just think it's kind of necessary in Dragon Ball for everyone to understand the history leading up to what's happening now in the story. I think what they're doing right now with Bardock and showing the relevance of the past is just like it's a very important thing that is needed in Dragon Ball because I don't think Toriyama made Dragon Ball Minus because he was bored. I think his version of Bardock's story is very important to him. I think people undermine how much he's prioritized this.
oh,
And
don't worry. We'll get into that. I think we should save that for part two of the leaks because I have an opinion on that as well, and I want to hear yours. But we just gotta finish, this part one, and we'll get to part two, which has the juiciest stuff.
okay, all right, well, we'll get into it then. Let's see.
So other than leak and Taro, so basically to sum up, part one of these leaks is basically the invasion of the Cerealians start. Leek and Taro are the Saiyans who joined Bardock, to attack Planet Cereal. Monito gets the two Dragon Balls. That's basically, the Cerealian who's unnamed, but they call him the Cerealian. The unnamed Cerealian is the one who destroys the moon, which reverts the Saiyans back to their base. And that's pretty much for part one. Now, part two, I have to intro it, if you don't mind,
Go ahead.
because this is the most controversial part of today. It is extremely controversial because every time Bardock, Toriyama's Bardock, not Koyama's, Toriyama's Bardock, gets any sort of development to further flesh out his story, somebody has a heart attack.
Yeah.
And I think that people should really look at this character with an open mind because even before Bardock, this new Bardock became a thing, Toriyama had already hinted at what kind of character Bardock was in his eyes, saying that he was an inherently good Saiyan that learned to be good and to detach himself from the natural order of Saiyans when he fell in love with Gine. And Gine's influence over Bardock is what continued to change him into this kind of heroic Saiyan who cared for his comrades and viewed them as more than just workers or like co-workers. And Bardock and Gina's relationship, I have to emphasize this, is a special case among the Saiyans besides the royal family because most Saiyans who get together to screw around, they just do that in order to repopulate,
Right.
and that's it.
Right.
And they, their children don't really matter to them, and it's shown in Minus. It's kind of echoed in Minus a little bit because even in the original special, it's kind of shown that a Saiyan, all the Saiyans care about is fighting, and if they see somebody that's weak, they don't really care about that Saiyan. And I like that it's echoed even in this continuity. But what makes Bardock stand out, and I know a lot of people hate this, is that Bardock's inherent good must have been passed down to Goku because it sure as hell skipped Raditz. So, Raditz is a scumbag. It sure as hell skipped him. But I I can see why people don't like that. I'm indifferent.
Here's how I
I'm
feel about it.
indifferent because I don't think that's also the case.
Raditz, I don't even think necessarily Raditz didn't inherit it. I think Raditz is just as much a product of his environment as Bardock was and as Goku was. I think about who Raditz was around all the time. Okay? He was around the one Saiyan who was the most merciless and despised weakness the most out of every other Saiyan that ever existed. He literally wiped out his comrades because they were weak. Okay? That was Raditz's influence. Okay, I think people have this misconception that Goku would have ended up good no matter what because he inherited this like instinctual need to help people. That's just not the case, okay? It's like I was telling you before this started. If Goku, in a hypothetical situation, if Goku was born into a situation where his life could progress exactly like Bardock's, he would end up exactly like Bardock. Goku is still the product of his environment. He's not just good because, he has that instinct. He's good because his memory was erased, which gave him the opportunity to exist in an environment where that instinct could flourish and be encouraged. It's everything that he went through afterwards that also affects who he is. Even meeting Master Roshi, because, Goku was always going to be a fighter. And when he met Master Roshi, part of what the Turtle School teaches is to improve others to improve yourself. That's that's something that Roshi taught Goku. Okay?
And I love that.
Goku has just had the perfect guidance throughout his lifetime to encourage him using that instinct that Bardock had and be proud of it rather than being ashamed of it. Like, that's the difference. Like, Goku would still be the product of his environment no matter what. It's like I said in my last video. If someone like General Tao found Goku, he would have ended up just like Tien. Even Tien had that inner instinct to want to help people and want to be good, and he did not discover that within himself until he came into contact with Goku. So it's like, Goku is just a product of his environment. Like, erasing his memory is very relevant because it's what gave him the opportunity to just embrace what was given to him on Earth.
But to learn and be his own person.
Right. And, in a sense, Bardock, it was necessary for Goku to inherit that from Bardock because all the rest of the Saiyans didn't have that instinctual need, and Goku needed it to be able to, for it to be relevant for him to live in an environment where that can flourish and where that can grow and where it can become something great,
Well, another person who's a product of their environment is also Vegeta, because if Vegeta had never met Goku, Vegeta would have never learned to be something more than just a merciless killer.
Right.
Goku over time changed Vegeta, and him meeting Bulma also changed them as well, because he learned, just like Bardock, he learned to care for something other than to destroy something. He was able to learn and destroy. And I think Toriyama mentioned this in an interview once, that Vegeta and Bardock are very similar, and in a way they kind of are, because both of them care about their family. They are special cases among the Saiyans because Saiyans don't really have like a familiar sense of family. They don't have a sense of family, and time again it has been said. Goku is also kind of an example of that, where Toriyama believes that Goku just views his family as friends, and I know that pisses people off, but Vegeta and Bardock are very much family guys, and Goku, in a way, he kind of is, but at the same time, Goku has that instinctual Saiyan need to want to fight. He puts fighting first and puts protecting others kind of bit of secondary. I know that might upset some folks, I'm not sure, but
well, I think Vegeta and Goku probably prioritize their family in different ways, but it's only because of Vegeta's pride and not necessarily his Saiyan nature. I think Vegeta takes pride in his bloodline, and I think that's part of the reason that he's a bit more family oriented, because he's very particular about how he wants his family to turn out and behave. Whereas Goku just doesn't care at all. They can do whatever they want. Like he encourages Gohan to be a scholar because he just doesn't care. He's just like, you can do whatever you want with your life. But I do see a lot of similarities between Bardock's parenting and Goku's parenting. Like there is a parallel between Vegeta and Bardock. I don't think you're wrong about that. But whenever I see, so like people compare Superman to Goku a lot, and they especially compare that scene in Minus to, whenever Superman's sent off into space. But I think Toriyama does that on purpose. It's no secret that he's a Superman fan because he created Superman, and it's no secret. But I think he has an issue with Superman as a character, and he actually highlights it in Superman because Superman only sees justice as justice for himself. Superman and Dr. Slump is a clever play on what Toriyama disagrees with when it comes to Superman's idea of justice. So Bardock sending off his son because he had an instinctual desire to protect him, not necessarily because he looked at him as special because he was his son, but he just had an instinctual need to protect him, is the perfect embodiment of how Goku actually looks at his children, and how he doesn't have a sense of like family like Toriyama describes. He just instinctually wants to protect everyone. He just instinctually cares about everyone. So it's just like the way he looks at everyone, it has the same weight. Like he definitely cares in a sense about some people more than others, but he still has that instinctual need to protect everybody. So I think Toriyama wanted to make an ironic scene that fit his narrative of what actual good was over. I think he wanted to like fix Superman in a way. You know what I mean? Like instead of them sending Superman off and Superman becoming this like guy who's just like completely set in his ways and his way of thinking about things, Bardock just he was not necessarily a good guy, but he just instinctually felt that he wanted to protect his family, and that is like the purest sense of good that Dragon Ball portrays. So I think it's more so just to subvert the idea of what good is. I think that's Toriyama's intentions there, is just to be like, look, this is how it actually should be. He looks down on the Western definition of what justice is and what good is. So like he's purposely going out of his way to establish in the story that Bardock isn't necessarily like a good guy, and he's a member of a warrior race. He just had like deep down he has the need to be compassionate, and that instinctual need is the most pure form of good that there is. And it's an example of why Goku's character is pure of heart, and why his character is inherently, I guess you could say, better than people give him credit for, is because it's something built into his system. He's not doing it because he feels he's right about something, or he feels someone else is wrong about something. It's just ingrained into his being to protect people and to fight and to have fun fighting.
Yeah. Wow. A lot of people they have their own definitions of Goku and how they view him as a character. I don't really know where I stand with Goku as a character, but if there's anything that interests me about Goku is the way he received, his Saiyan name. And in the summary, for the leaks of Chapter 77, I think it's interesting that Gine tells Bardock that she wants... It's interesting to me that the reason why Bardock didn't attack, Granola's mother and Granola is because he remembers Gine. And he remembers, that argument that he had with her before he left. And this is actually a very interesting coincidental tidbit, and I'll tell you why. Because Gine tells him that Goku had barely been born. So it's established here that Goku's barely born during the invasion of Planet Cereal. like during this time is when he was born. And I find that interesting. And the reason for the argument is not that, but it's because she gets upset that Bardock hasn't brought up the opportunity to want to see him because Saiyans leave and they're gone for months. They're possibly gone for months.
Right, which is
Now, a
why
friend of mine,
I think
yeah, a
that's a
friend of mine named
Goku-esque
Andy,
thing.
uh-huh,
Yeah.
and a friend of mine named Andy on Twitter actually posted a tidbit from the Broly novel, from the film novel, that speaks about this in a way where it's like Saiyans are usually gone for a number of months. Now, I find that interesting that they even reference that here in Super too. So, they're connecting a lot of things. There's so much connective tissue here, and I dig it. I dig it. And what I enjoy about this part specifically, and it's fan service, but this is kind of fan service that I don't mind because I kind of wondered who was the one that named Goku Kakarot, and it's it it it's crazy to me that Bardock observes Goku in the incubator and decides that his name is Kakarot. Like he just sees him and he's like, I got it. It's Kakarot. And that's the name that sticks with Goku forever. And that's the name that Goku wishes not to be called. But now he'll know that there's more good to that name because the man who named him was also good like him. He wasn't a brutal killer.
Yes.
He had morals, whereas most Saiyans just wanted to slaughter and kill.
I don't know if I would call it morals. I would just say it's like a gut thing. He just like he didn't
But well, a gut
he,
feeling for sure, yeah.
he didn't even understand why he was trying to save. Like he didn't get it. He was just like, what the hell am I doing? I don't get it. Like he didn't understand. So I think that the purpose of this is the reason
So
that
long as they don't say that it's because of the Super Saiyan God. The Super Saiyan God is telling me
no,
to
I
save you.
don't think that's what it
I
is.
hope it's
I
not
don't think
that.
that's what it is. Look, I think that Saiyans were not always bad. I think they used to be compassionate and they used to care about each other and they used to fight each other just to get stronger. And then one day, one of the Saiyans killed another one to show their dominance, and ever since then, there's been like a divide between good and evil Saiyans. And
Yo,
I think the reason that they are trying to make Goku proud of his Saiyan heritage is because they are also going to change the narrative of what it means to be a Saiyan. They've already hinted at this. Nagamine already hinted at this in an interview in the Broly movie when he was talking about Bardock and Broly and Goku. He was talking about how Goku and Broly were rediscovering the original nature of the Saiyans. And what are Goku and Broly doing right now? They're not trying to kill each other. They're just fighting each other to get stronger. And I think that that's what this movie is leading up to as well. I think that's why the interaction between Broly and Goku is relevant in the future, is because it's establishing what the Saiyans used to be and what they used to be about.
man. And I just want to add to that and say the Saiyan who must have killed the good Saiyan was Cumber, all right?
Yeah, really that would make perfect sense. It would make perfect sense.
Man, man, people listening to this are going to be like, oh no, they're mixing heroes with Super. No, but I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. And that also kind of goes back to what I was thinking about why there was so much recent news stuff about the ancient Saiyans. And a lot of the mobile games, a lot of heroes and legends are kind of delving into that aspect of the Saiyans' history, talking about how the Saiyans were infected by evil, or there was a discourse that happened. I think Vegeta mentioned it that must have pertained to planet Sadala and why they had to move to a different planet. There's so much that's relevant about the Saiyans in this story and the Granola Saga that if what you say about Goku and Broly that, they're basically reflecting, the good nature of the Saiyans that once was, then that's possibly a storyline that's going to be dug into even deeper later on after, Superhero, if it goes beyond that. But that also opens up the doors for Goku, Vegeta, and Broly just reestablishing in the universe that the Saiyans weren't always bad for everyone to know. And they're setting examples for everyone else who comes in contact with them that Saiyans aren't, you know, aren't space pirates, aren't out to conquer, and that back then, before Frieza, and now the Heaters, and now whoever else, shit, maybe even Cumber, if Cumber becomes canon one day, I hope that the Saiyans were could have been what Planet Sidal and Universe 6 is, and those and what they were, protectors.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Universe 6 is they are in touch with their original nature as Saiyans. And I don't think they ever lost it. Because it's suggested that they had a similar war-like event where they had to take down the demonic Saiyan. And, it seems like Universe 6 is a reflection of Universe 7. And the difference between the two universes is that the Universe 6 Saiyans never lost their original nature, and the Universe 7 Saiyans did, and that's the difference between the two.
Yeah, and it's just interesting that might be a plot thing going down the road for at least the Saiyans in Universe 7. So if it goes down to it, you're the one that called it, all right?
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the next bit of the summary. So Bardock,
Reading this, I just got to interject real quick. Reading this, it's really funny how Raditz gets no love. Like, I remember that Toriyama once said during the episode of Bardock interview with Oishi, he said that the family unit of Goku's original family unit, Bardock, Ine, and Raditz, they were never in the same room together.
yeah.
And Toyotaro honors this by having Raditz outside playing with beetles. And I find that so funny to me because Raditz does not get any love or any scenes with his mom and dad. Now, is that because he doesn't really care to spend time with them and he knows they're always going to be there? Or is it because he's just so into, like being his own person and exploring, his fighting abilities that he wants to just be his own person?
Well,
I just think that's very interesting.
Vegeta is the embodiment of what the Saiyans used to do with their children, okay? So if you remember back whenever Dragon Ball Z was going on, Vegeta, like, he's just recently kind of become soft on his family. Like, it's like a tough love thing. They just think that if they leave their kids alone and they let them do their thing and they let them grow, and that they'll become strong, capable Saiyans. It's just like a tough love thing. Like, they don't necessarily neglect them because they think it's good to neglect them, or like, it's not even really intentional. It's just all Saiyans, including the children, aren't necessarily concerned with being a tight-knit family unit. You know what I'm saying? Like, even the children are just like, I just want to do my own thing.
Yeah, and so they send Raditz outside like a dog.
Yeah, Raditz he just doesn't care, bro. Like, he's
He's just their pet, man. He's just their pet dog. Come here, Raditz.
he's just their offering to the Saiyan Legion, Like,
No, yeah, they're just offering up as an infiltration child to just go and, exterminate other planets to see if he could even muster up to Prince Vegeta.
yeah. I mean, I do think maybe Bardock might have had some sense of pride in his son. I don't think he didn't have any sense of it, but he was obviously concerned whenever Raditz got sent off with Vegeta.
No, I understand. My friend, I gotta mention this because rereading this right now, like, it just popped this into my head. Bardock meets a Namekian. Goku as a kid meets a Namekian. It's like Bardock kind of lived similar events that Goku would later experience as a kid on Earth. He meets Piccolo Daimo. Bardock meets Monito on Planet Cereal. Decades later, when Goku grows up, he would come to meet a Cerealian, just like Bardock did when he came to invade Planet Cereal. These, I don't know if it's coincidental or if they're borrowing from, the original Dragon Ball manga, but it's so wild to me that both Bardock and Goku experienced similar events in their own way that shaped them.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't. it didn't even cross my mind that like the relevancy of Bardock meeting a Namek until you just said something about it.
Like Bardock meeting Monito was a good experience. Goku meeting Piccolo Daimyo was a bad experience. There's two sides. It's like a two-side coin. One has, one's heads and the other's tails. Well, Goku got tails.
Right. It is very interesting that they're connecting everything that the way they are. Like it is pretty cool.
It
Okay.
is interesting to me. Yeah.
Oh, it says right here that Monito hides both the Dragon Balls in a house in the mountains.
Oh, well, there we go. But how did okay, so if he hides them in the house, so then how did the Dragon Ball end up in the water?
That's interesting.
Did
Yeah.
did Granola later on as a kid go up to the house and find one of the Dragon Balls? Kind of like how Goku had his on a shrine to honor his grandpa?
Oh yeah, that would be very interesting if they like had it in a way that's
I
similar to
would love
Goku from
that.
old Dragon Ball. That would be really cool.
I would love that.
Yeah. All
I
right.
think it's
Go
yeah,
ahead.
go on.
I think we should just move on to the next summary part. So you wanna summarize everything that's been said here real quick?
Yeah. So basically for part two, Bardock chases after Granola and his mother, he reverts back to his base. Granola's mom fires at him, breaks his shoulder pad. He remembers Gine. He remembers, the argument and the effect it had on him. He remembers Goku, essentially. He remembers his son. And from seeing, Granola and his mother, it does. I think we talked about this before that something like this would happen and that it would remind him of his family. And in a way, it does. And I do enjoy that it was Bardock who gives Goku his name. I dig that because it's such a nice contrast to the original special where it wasn't really known how Goku got his name, Kakarot, and every time Bardock ever spoke of Kakarot, it was always such in a negative light. But here it shows that he has such care for Kakarot, for Goku, and I just dig that, that contrast.
Yeah.
And
He probably looked in the thing and was like, "Man, he looks just like me. I'm gonna give him this kick-ass name."
yeah, and we're gonna see how Goku looks because he's a baby. We're not gonna see how it's. I guarantee it's not gonna be how he looked in Minus, where he was 3 years old and full, legs, arms, and everything.
Yeah.
They might actually have the same design of him as a baby, where he was chubby, in this chapter if they do, because that's how
Or
Raditz says he remembers Goku the last time he saw him.
right. That makes a lot of sense.
Possibly. I'm not saying, that's what it's gonna be, but also, Leek finds Bardock in the chapel in the church, and we gotta talk about this. And he tells them that Frieza is on his way to Planet Cereal.
Yeah, that's
That
interesting.
I was thinking about this before we got on the record. I was thinking about this off the record. What if this also in kind of a way is to foreshadow the present where Frieza might be also approaching Planet Cereal too?
That would be
And
pretty
it's like
cool.
to put it in the reader's head, like, hey, we didn't forget about Frieza. This similar situation might also happen again now.
Yeah, it would make perfect sense, dude. It would make so much sense because the the Saiyans are being tricked by the Heaters to come to the planet to take out Granola again, and Frieza could be on his way to the planet right now again. That would make perfect
Yeah,
sense, bro.
they're setting the events up. They're setting everything up to fall the same way as it happened 40 years ago. So yeah, I think I originally thought Frieza wasn't gonna show up this saga. That he was just gonna be kind of like like a MacGuffin or just something that drives the plot. And it's gonna be interesting if he does return because we're gonna see him in the next chapter. You know why? Because of the cliffhanger. We're
Yeah.
gonna see him in a flashback, and it's interesting to me that Leek lets him know that Frieza's on his way, but Bardock doesn't really care because he wants to stay there while everyone leaves. So
Right.
he stays behind. He doesn't go back. So that's what I find interesting.
That
So,
also
and this
means that we're gonna
segues,
have a fight between Goku and Elec then, more than likely, since Bardock and Elec had a little battle.
not just that, we're gonna have possibly a fight with Goku and Gas.
Yeah, yeah, and
Oh man, but wait. That segues into part three. So let's get into summary, the part three of the summary.
alrighty, let's do it.
So, man, just okay. So we come to find out that Monito can raise his power. So Bardock, figures that out. But does he? I'm reading this right now, and it's not really. It doesn't make it aware that Bardock knows what a Namekian is. So could this be his first time that he's introduced to a Namekian?
It kind of
And
seems
he
that way,
wasn't.
yeah.
Yeah, it seems that way, right? So he meets Monito. Granola's mother enters the house. I honestly don't know how to say her name. What is it, Musueli? I don't know how to say her name. But anyways, Granola's mom, introduces herself, and Monito introduces himself, and they offer Bardock help. And Bardock just tells him like, "Hey, go hide. Frieza's coming to the planet." And this is what you were referencing earlier when Bardock says that he just helped them on a whim. Monito asks him why is he helping them, and earlier he was trying to kill them. And Bardock says that it must have been a whim, like it was a gut feeling that he had to do it. But we
Yeah, and
know
that's
that.
why it was so important to me that he did it in grade 8
Mm-hmm.
before, because I wanted it to
Uh-huh.
be an instinctual thing. But they're hammering home so hard that it's an instinctual thing without him being in grade 8. I don't even care anymore. It's just like, yes, this is perfect.
It's just an overall instinctual thing, but it was also Guinea's influence. It seems to me that Guinea, uh,
She's like the
Gu-
icebreaker between what the Saiyans were trying to teach Bardock and what she
uh,
had and her way of doing things. She basically made him comfortable with embracing that part of who he was. It was always there, but he didn't have anybody to influence him to do it or make him comfortable with it.
the image of her reels him back in to being normal again, to being human, to being himself, versus being like the rest of the lot who just want to, kill. And I dig that. I dig that a lot because it kind of seems like when he doesn't want to do anything, when he doesn't want to do something that's, harmful to others, which we don't know if that's really the case all the time. It might just be certain special cases like Granola and his mom
Yeah,
and Monito that he looks to the image of Gine in his head and it just snaps him back into reality and makes him whole again.
right. Right. I
And I
think
dig that.
I think cuz okay, I think his peers also pressure him into being that way. And he also feels, because he is a Saiyan and all the Saiyans take pride in being good at what they do and being strong, capable warriors, he's just overall pressured not only by the way all the other Saiyans are, but by the general way that Saiyans do things. It's just like it's ingrained into their society at that point. So it's like bragging rights to be like someone who can like take out an entire planet on their own. They don't necessarily
Not just
they don't necessarily
yeah.
look at it as a bad thing. Like people are like, "Oh, they have these evil intentions, like they're so bad." No, these Saiyans are so animalistic and instinctual that they're just like, "Oh, this is just what we do." You know what I mean? Like this is just like we enjoy it because
It's
we're good
second
at it.
nature to them.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I agree. It could also be also another thing where like I told you earlier, and it says in the summary, the Frieza Force was there. And it could also be another situation where if Bardock wasn't to be compliant, he would probably, get his ass kicked or he would be killed. And I'm pretty sure, he has to put on the facade of him being a ruthless killer in
Right.
order for him to survive and be able to go home.
Right. Well, think about it
And
this way. So I was talking to you earlier about how
mhm,
like I think there was originally one Saiyan who killed another one, and that's what started it all. So just imagine like if that
mhm.
happened, he was like, now that I've shown my dominance over our race, we should take this to the entire universe and show our dominance over the entire universe. Take over every planet, do what we want with it, kill everyone that stands in our way. The first person that ever killed another Saiyan was probably the same one that set them on the path to become the space pirates.
Probably because of his great big influence, Cumber. Um, his influence reached far and wide, which also it's kind of echoed a little bit in Universe 7 whenever somebody hears about a Saiyan. Saiyans have this, this well-known history in Universe 7 that just makes them feared by many. And it could even go as far back as, like you said, back to the ancient times, Planet Sadala era, where it was possibly even before Frieza or King Cold came to
Well,
find them and,
Moro said
bring
that
them
they're
in.
20,000 years old. They're a 20,000-year-old tribe, and they didn't have the war on planet Zadala happened 1,000 years ago. So, you know, they're not young as a race. They had plenty of time to not be evil and not be space pirates.
So with that information, it really seems like somebody just stood out and said, hey, well, you know what? I just woke up today and chose violence and decided, kick another Saiyan's ass and then show everyone else, like, we can be good, or you can use your power and control somebody else. You can control anyone you want if you assert, like you said, your dominance.
Right.
And that's probably what happened. And I don't know if it necessarily fits this continuity because of Battle of Gods, but that could be the situation. If you remember when Goku was asking about the Super Saiyan God, Shenlong tells him that there was a warrior who acquired the power of other six
Yeah,
Saiyans,
1,000 years
transformed
ago.
into this,
Right.
yeah, transformed into the Super Saiyan God, and fought not one but a couple of evil Saiyans. And who in Dragon Ball, in the world of Dragon Ball, whether it's non-canon or canon, has the title of the evil Saiyan? Well, it's Cumber.
Yeah.
So, but if we're going by Super, there had to have been a group known as evil Saiyans who, just by being extremely or inherently evil, were able to manipulate other Saiyans due to their brute force and their control to go down this path, like you said. So yeah, I really think that with what you've provided me and what you've told me and what we've looked at, that could necessarily be what drove the Saiyans to choose this path, because they were, I don't know if it's because they were afraid or because they just saw that we
Ego.
don't necessarily, yeah,
Ego.
we don't have to
That's what it
be,
is. Look.
good.
So like it was in my opinion it was just showing dominance over another Saiyan. I think Saiyans have always been very competitive. I think they've been kind of like a martial arts race where they fight each other and they try to get stronger fighting each other. And I think one day, one was just so frustrated with the other one because the other one was strong that when he got the opportunity to kill him, he killed him. And it was just because his ego is what caused all the Saiyans to become evil. He wanted to prove that he was better than the one that the other Saiyan who wasn't willing to kill. He wanted to prove it, and when he did, he tainted the entire Saiyan race. That's what I think happened.
That could be the case. We could see a story like that play after a superhero. I would love a story where, because Cumber is the only one we know when the Evil Saiyan title, if Evil Saiyan like Cumber were to be unleashed in, Universe Saiyan, and it took Goku, Vegeta, and Broly to challenge him, but they would also learn about, their history, and it would be such a nice contrast of the evil of then catching up to the good of now. And I just think an interesting story like that would be cool for Super, but that would also kind of be like retreading on what Dragon Ball Super Broly kind of did. But
Yeah,
who knows? I would dig it. But I want
right.
to talk to you about this in the part 3 of the summary. Now, you and I know that upon reading this, that Monito is very taken by Bardock. Not in that way, but he's taken by just how good of a Saiyan Bardock is.
Right.
And I dig that. But when they fast forward to the present, Monito tells Goku that he is just like Bardock. And Goku's kind of baffled by it. And, Monito asks Goku if Bardock is his friend or something. Obviously means if they're related. Goku tells him that he doesn't know much about the Saiyans because he was raised by his grandfather on Earth. People today on, where Twitter are going off because I gotta go on to the next part. Because Vegeta says Kakarot Bardock is your father's name, and Goku is surprised to hear what Vegeta said. Even Monito and Granola are. But Goku insists that even if the guy Monito met in the past was his father, he doesn't know anything about that. But
Yes.
Vegeta, upon listening to Monito's story, said that it seems Goku has inherited the kindness of his father. Look, Goku says right here, he literally says right here in the summary, he says that he doesn't know much about the Saiyans because he was raised by his grandfather.
And he doesn't
Raised
remember Bardock.
by his grandfather.
And he
Exactly.
doesn't
And he
remember
doesn't
Bardock. Which is
and he
telling
doesn't
you.
remember his parents.
Which is straight up telling you his memory was erased and he was raised by his grandfather. That's why Goku is the way he is. That's literally what the summary is telling you, like word for word.
And it doesn't contradict that panel. And I've seen that panel that people have been showing you. It doesn't contradict it at all. In my
No.
opinion, it doesn't contradict. Because Grandpa Gohan's influence was much greater over Goku than Bardock or Guinea's. And what does Vegeta know? All right, what does Vegeta really know? Vegeta is just going off based of Goku and
Well,
how he is as a person.
I don't think we should pin it on Vegeta not knowing what he's talking about. I think the wording is just horrible. I think just the way it's being worded, it's horrible. What Vegeta is trying to tell Goku is that you've inherited the nature of your father, not necessarily the kindness, but just like the nature that Bardock always had in him that Guinea fostered. Vegeta's just
It might not even be that. It
yeah,
might not even be that, like word per word. It might not even be that. It might be worded even better, and we're gonna get even better context. And everyone that was freaking out are finally gonna be at ease. And I'm just at ease right now because I know this is translation. This is somebody else's
Well, a
translation.
lot of people are saying a lot of the reason people are upset is because they think Vegeta knew that his father was kind, but Vegeta just heard the story that Monito told, and that's what Vegeta could be going off. You know what I'm saying?
No, this tells me that Vegeta probably never came in contact with Bardock. He knew about him because of Raditz, but Raditz probably only saw one side of Bardock. He probably never saw.
Right. Monito just told a whole
Question.
story. Monito just told a whole story about why Bardock was kind. So of course Vegeta's gonna just assume, hey, that sounds a lot like you, Goku. You know what I mean? Like it's just.
But people are gonna bring it up and be like, well, hey, didn't Vegeta know about Bardock? Like, you think Raditz would have never mentioned his dad? I think Raditz just mentions how great of a fighter his dad is and how he probably maybe didn't really spend much time with him because Raditz was always off doing his own thing.
Right.
Toriyama always mentioned that they were never together as a unit. So it's not out of left field that Raditz probably never spent time with Bardock. And if he did, it was only in fleeting moments. Raditz
Right.
was very much his own person. He wasn't tethered to Bardock the way Guinea was, the way a woman and man, when they get together, or the way a relationship is.
Right. The way Monito tells
Raditz
the
is just his
story.
own person.
The way Monito tells the story, it makes it unnecessary for Vegeta to know any actual details about Bardock outside of what he just heard from Monito. It's just completely unnecessary. Monito telling the story is all the story needs. So I think that's what it is. I think Vegeta is just like, well, it sounds like your dad was kind, and that must be where you got it, Goku. You know what I mean? It's just I don't think he's saying it. I think he's saying it just based on what he heard from Monito. You know what I mean? And it's in Goku's nature to be kind because of Bardock. That's what this is trying to tell us. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. As long as, because the thing about it is, look, Bardock did not choose to be a compassionate person, even though he had always had it in him. He didn't choose to do that until it was too late. It was literally too late. By the time he chose to start trying to make those decisions, by the time he was ready to sacrifice himself for his people, it was too late. Okay, so like, yes, he always had that in him, but at the end of the day, he is an example of what Goku would have been if Goku made the same decision that Bardock made and chose to embrace what being a Saiyan was. So anytime someone creates a what if where Goku was a regular Saiyan, just look at Bardock.
No, I agree. I agree, Jordan. But listen, this just popped into my head. Him trying to save the Saiyans kind of brings his saga, his own arc, very full circle because we might find out more about Bardock in the next chapter. We don't know what really happened. We don't have the full picture. We don't have it. And something happened between him and Gas that Gas is embarrassed by. It really, you see it in the chapters leading up to now that Gas does not want to remember what happened that day. And given by what happened in Dragon Ball Minus and in Dragon Ball Super Broly, Bardock came out victorious that day.
Yeah.
He must have bested Gas.
Yeah.
And Bardock leading up to, that event, that eventual day where he would go up against Frieza, in which he lost, Bardock Bardock had fully realized who he was as a Saiyan by going up against Frieza, rebelling against him and trying to save his people. He realized that he was better than what the Saiyans were made out to look like, and he wanted to save not just, his people, but his family, his wife, Raditz. He knew that Goku was already heading to Earth, but he also wanted to save himself. And even though, he lost, he died, admirably. It still in my opinion, it brought together his entire saga in a full circle and gave that character closure, depending on what we find out in the next chapter. I just feel like this saga, what we're finding out, this little mini saga of Bardock, Toriyama's Bardock, is really giving us a broader look into this character
Well, okay.
versus, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I get what you're trying to say. Let's address the elephant in the room. Okay. I honestly believe this, and this is so the reason people prefer the original Bardock over the modern Bardock is because they literally want Bardock to be an asshole who didn't care about his kids to bring relevance to the fact that Goku is good. Let's not pretend like that's not what's going on. That's exactly what's going on. They think that by Bardock being a jackass and not being inherently good like this Bardock, and him just trying to fight Frieza to survive because he's got bigger balls than the rest of the Saiyans. That's what they're just comfortable with the idea of Bardock being that type of person because it's like he wasn't good like Goku. He was just a savage Saiyan who tried to stand up for his life. You know what I'm saying? And that's what a lot of these people want. But I think it is that in itself. The entire reason that people are getting mad about that is because they think that it takes relevance away from the fact that Goku is good. But I think it is much more necessary, and I think Toriyama is making the right call by going out of his way to show that Goku is good because of his instincts rather than saying that he is good because he hit his head and he was raised by Grandpa Gohan alone. That's not enough because Goku, everything that he's done in Dragon Ball from the start, he's not done it because he has like an idea of what's right and wrong like a normal person. He does it because he just assumes it's the right thing to do. He feels it's the right thing to do. He doesn't have any negative thoughts. We found that out in early Dragon Ball when he got hit with the Devilman's beam. He's not capable of having selfish and negative thoughts, and that's why, because he is nothing but instinct. He is nothing but an instinctual creature who saves people and fights because it's in his instincts to do that. And I think that that's something that needs to be established in the story, more importantly than him being good because he was different than his dad, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree, and I even kind of I kind of echoed that a little bit, and in my thread when I was talking about Toriyama's Bardock and how different he was compared to Koyama's. I even said, you have to leave the notions of what you already know about Bardock as a character at the door because these are not the same character. One is portrayed in a special that was made by Toei, and the one we're getting now is Toriyama's actual version of Bardock. Yeah. And Toriyama must be a fan of Bardock because he's literally trying to give him his own mini saga in this story. He's trying to fill in gaps that would make his Bardock a more well-rounded character
Well,
versus the one that we know.
Toriyama had said before that he was disgusted with Toei's portrayal of Goku. He was disgusted with it. It seems like to me like he's using Bardock as a means to fix the perception of Goku's character, because he said in different interviews that he wanted people to debate in their mind whether or not Goku was even a good guy at all, right? Like there's an interview where he straight up says that. He's like, I want you to like be perplexed as to whether or not Goku is actually good.
Oh, well, people are very perplexed today.
You know what I mean? And if Goku is an instinctual protector and an instinctual fighter, no wonder you wonder whether he's good or not. Because he's not doing it because he has an idea of what's good, and he's like, I'm a hero of justice, and I think this is right, and I think that this is what we should do. He's doing it because it's in his gut, like it's a part of his being, and it just fits what Toriyama says about Goku's character way more than other people's preconceived notions of what his character is.
No, I agree. But I'm also looking more forward to just him finishing this mini saga of Bardock, because that's the way I view it. I view it as a mini saga because we're getting more backstory for this character, and this chapter is very focused on him, and it's almost like the story shifts from the main three strongest to Bardock and puts him in the lead, puts him as the new lead of the story for a little bit, and I dig that. I dig that a lot.
Yeah,
and
it's so cool. It's so cool.
It's very cool because we're now getting Bardock's perspective as a character and what happened that day, and which brings this. I want to bring this up because after that story that Monito tells, and after the controversial line that Vegeta says about Goku's kindness being an inheritance, Granola angrily asks Monito what happened to his mom and why she couldn't survive, and continues the story. And we got to talk about this. We got to talk about part 4. We got to talk about these last ones, part 4 and 5, because this is very crucial. These last parts are very crucial for the future of the story, and I'm extremely excited to see which path they're going to take Granola now, and what they're going to show us about Bardock versus Gas, if that really happened. Right. So basically, just to sum up part 3, we find out more of Goku's origins as Kakarot. We find out, Bardock names him Kakarot. We find out that Bardock's argument with Gine is what pulls him back from delivering the final blow to Granola and his mom, because I have to say, he remembers his family, and Goku here doesn't really. Yeah, I called it. And maybe others did as well. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one, for sure. It's Super. Super can be kind of predictable, but I do want to bring this up that I really do believe that Grandpa Gohan's influence was much greater than Bardock and Gine's, considering they didn't really spend much time with him because he was in the incubator for 3 years.
Yeah,
3 years, and when they finally let him out, the last thing they tell him is like, you gotta survive, like,
Grandpa
be good,
Gohan
don't
is
look
responsible for domesticating him. That's just a fact. Like,
yeah, he made him into a civilian. He tried to civilize him.
Right.
Because even in Minus, you see that Goku was very animal-like. He was very animalistic, and he was kind of a bit of a hassle.
He was mini Bardock.
Grandpa Gohan, yeah, he was mini Bardock, and he had to shape him into his own kind of individual, which, like you said, Goku would have been Goku living with Bardock and Gine and being raised on planet Vegeta. He would have been another product of his environment, where he would have been very similar to probably Raditz.
I think he would have been more like Bardock. I think he still would have had that need to help people and that need to, like, I think he would have just been a leader amongst the Saiyans and someone that they all looked up to.
I don't know. Part of me tells me that Goku would have been a little bit more of a little douchebag, honestly, if I'm being real with you. I think he would have just been more obsessed with fighting.
No, I think the whole entire point of them telling you that he inherited from Bardock is to tell you that he would have been just like Bardock. I don't think they would tell you that Goku had that from Bardock if it wasn't to explain basically that that's the reason that Bardock is the way he is, and it's also the reason Goku is the way he is. Like Goku would still he still has concern for his comrades in the same way Bardock does. You can't
Yeah.
rob Goku of that aspect of his character. You know what I mean?
No,
It's
you
still
can't. And
it's still there.
Toriyama's trying to hammer that home here. Toriyama is hammering that home here because this backstory, I don't think it's Toyotaro's. It has to be Toriyama. It has to 100% be it has to be Toriyama.
Yeah, you're
I
right.
don't
I
think
agree with you.
Monito would have been a character in the story if it wasn't to open the opportunity for Bardock to come back, which I don't think he's gonna get revived. That would be crazy, you know. Imagine if the okay, I just have to bring this up. Can you imagine if the Heaters use the Dragon Balls to resurrect Bardock, but to use them as their own slave to fight against the Saiyans and Granola and Monito? Kind of like what Mira and Toa did in Heroes, and actually not Heroes, in Dragon Ball Online. That would be crazy, but that's not. I don't think that's gonna happen. I just think that Monito and Bardock's connection serves the story very much just like the way Goku's connection with Granola and Bardock is Link. And that's one of the reasons why he's in the story. Another reason is to just give a little bit more depth to Goku's character.
Right. So let's get to Bardock hiding in the trees and all that stuff.
Oh yeah. So that's summary part 4.
Yeah.
Okay, so summary part 4, you know, Bardock's scouter turns on and he detects the presence of other people on planet Cereal, or actually nearby them. And Bardock hides among some trees and he observes that there are 4 people. And who are these 4 people? The Heater family. It's the Heaters. And, you know, the brothers, you know, Gas, Elect, and Oil, they're talking and they discuss, well, they watch Frieza's ships leave. So they're seeing everybody leave. They're seeing the Saiyans and stuff, you know. And Elec tells his brothers to contact the Shugarians to negotiate the price of the planet. And Oil asks his brother how much he's going to sell the planet for. And Elec gives this ridiculous number. And
right, then he said he's only going to give Frieza a tenth of it.
They're scumbags, man. They're scumbags. But this is the way of the business in this universe.
Right.
But so, you know, he's already being cheap with Frieza. So, but Maki tells him to be careful because Frieza is very intelligent and he has a great battle power. So they're already well aware of how powerful Frieza is at this point. But I have to bring this up because this is very interesting to me. Elec tells them that they cannot be Frieza by force, but that they will do it with intelligence, financial power, and the power of information. And this is the same theme that they've had going with the Heaters since the beginning of the saga. When they go to when they go to Zuno, what do they look for? They look for intel. But what kind of information could they use against Frieza that would be beneficial to them in order to defeat him? Like, what do they mean? I actually want to ask you this, Jordan. What do you think they meant by that? Because what would they come to know about Frieza that would be detrimental to him and his army? I think this is crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about. So this is definitely a hint at what the wish is on the Dragon Balls that they have planned. At least in my opinion, because like it seems if anybody's going to want to use the Dragon Balls, it's going to be Elec. And so it seems like what's going to happen based on what they say in the synopsis is Gas is going to go down and challenge everyone. They're probably going to fail. Goku's probably going to whoop Gas's ass. And then they're going to use the Dragon Balls. What exactly they're going to wish for, I'm not sure. But it does seem like it's possible that they will wish to know everything that Zuno knows.
So you're telling me that you believe that they're gonna wish to take the place of Zuno as the main, basically to be the main holder of information of Universe 7.
Yeah, they're gonna
They
know
want to take his
everything.
place.
They want to know everything. If Alec knows everything, he can
Wow.
exploit that in battle.
Not just that, he's gonna come to learn about the Super Dragon Balls too, because Zuno knows about the Super Dragon Balls.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
so
Oh man.
yeah, so if he wishes to know everything that Zuno knows, then he can use that not only to discover the Super Dragon Balls, but as a tactical advantage to show that he is better to lead Frieza's army than Frieza himself. If he knows everything, then it's really hard for you to beat him as a strategic leader of a military operation.
Man, this is crazy to me because this is Dragon Ball and I have to wrap my head around the idea that it's Dragon Ball. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like Dragon Ball is entering some very like interesting ground. They're breaking grounds in a way where it's very interesting. It's
yeah,
just interesting. I really enjoy this saga, but I want to continue on
yeah.
because
It says right here that Frieza's ships leave.
yeah, they
So
leave. So I'm assuming the Saiyans leave as well, which is why Bardock stayed behind.
right.
So, but
So
what I mean, I think what it means by Frieza's ships is that the Frieza forces leave.
yeah, not Frieza himself. Right.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, Frieza's coming on his own terms.
right. What if Bardock um humiliates Gas and Frieza humiliates Gas?
Ah, that sounds cool, but you got to remember that in the manga of Dragon Ball, remember how Frieza tells him, tells in his, well, actually, he talks about it in his head because in the anime he tells Goku, but in his head he thinks it. He thinks that Goku resembles very much that Saiyan that rebelled against him.
Maybe he just
I
looks up to
bel
Frieza.
I
Maybe Gas just wants
yeah,
to be what Frieza is.
which is all powerful and all fearing. All
Yeah.
yeah, maybe. I just think it's interesting that if this is the first time Frieza and Bardock meet, then that's gonna open up a whole another can of worms, and people are gonna be dissecting that other panel. You know, the one that's basically promotional and advertising the special. You know what I mean? And listen. I think Bardock does probably humiliate Gas, but whether he comes into contact with Frieza, I don't know. I mean, you would think Frieza would kill Gas right then and there,
Right.
unless
So
he
what's
can't do it
Frieza's
because
what's
it's gonna ruin business with the heaters.
so what's Frieza's what do you predict is Frieza's overall role in the story when he does show up on Planet Cereal?
I think he's just going to check on how the planets are doing because if you remember in the Moral Saga, that bonus page, they were going around the universe looking for new planets to sell, but since Moral was sucking the planets dry, he was sucking the soul right out of them. Uh, he Frieza kind of changes course and lays low for a little while because he doesn't want to get into contact with Moro. I think him knowing that the planets are now revitalized, they're brought back to life, everything's cool, everything's cool in the gang in the universe again. Frieza's gonna go check up on the planets and see which ones are doing good and which ones he still has control of. 'Cause I wonder if he still has control of Planet Stereo. I really wonder that. And if he does, he's gonna show up. He's gonna see Goku, Vegeta. He's gonna get into a scuffle with them. Granola's gonna probably attack Frieza, and he's gonna blame it on. I wonder if he's still gonna hold Frieza accountable for anything. I would, but the main ones who are really the threat here are the heaters, and this would be a good time to bring Frieza in because they're gonna go for the second Dragon Ball already.
Right.
And the next chapter, aside from showing Bardock again, which I hope it shows Bardock again and continues this, backstory. Goku and Vegeta are gonna make the realization that, and they're gonna tell Granola, well, the ones who told us to come and fight you are actually those very same people that you work for, and who are responsible for the death of your mom. And oh, spoiler, but so yeah, like everything's gonna come a little bit of a full circle there. But I think Frieza's gonna be the wrench that's gonna be thrown in and kind of cause a little bit of a discourse that's not gonna let Goku, Vegeta, and Granola meet the heaters quite yet. Maybe, or it could be that Gas knows that Goku, Vegeta, and Granola are on the move heading towards them, and Gas is gonna go hold them off so that Eleg, Maki, and Oil get the Dragon Ball, and Eleg makes his wish.
Huh. So what if the heaters become such a threat that Frieza is forced to rely on Granola, Goku, and Vegeta to take down the heaters?
I think what's gonna end up happening is that he's not gonna so much rely on them, but he's gonna be forced to join them again. He's gonna be forced to join Goku and Vegeta again. You know, outside of a dire situation that would cause the entire universe to fail and lose or be destroyed. Which might they're gonna hype it up as an event like that because the heaters are gonna be powerful.
Right.
Frieza's gonna join forces with Goku and Vegeta again, and Granola's gonna have to come into terms with learning how to cope with being in the same fighting group as the man who's responsible for the death of his home race, of his home planet, the people of his planet for dying. And I think that's going to be interesting because if I was Granola the whole time, I would want to get the jump on Frieza.
Right.
He's literally right there. I could just blast his head off. But he's going to have to put that revenge aside and now get an even greater revenge on the people who are responsible for his mom's death.
Right.
And I really think there's going to be a chapter soon that's going to highlight Granola 100%. That's going to be all full on Granola versus the heaters.
I do think it would be pretty cool if Vegeta masters Ultra Ego fighting Frieza instead of Granola, but I'm still thinking that Vegeta might master it against Granola first because it just seems like that's a plot point that was never resolved, Like
Well, it's like you said with your video and with Star Blast about the gods of destruction. I think it's like you've said this to me a number of times before off the record that you believe that this story is gonna be kind of a catalyst for Vegeta to be able to master Ultra Ego, that he's going to be able to tap into it better and be able to utilize it without him having to revert to his old ways because he's better than that. He's above that now.
right.
He's above that level of that mindset that he used to be. He's not as ruthless or heartless as he used to be. He's going to find a substitute in order for him to be able to have his mind on destruction the whole time to fully utilize Ultra Ego.
Yeah. It's also
I still
like,
foresee that happening.
yeah, me too. And it's also like him getting over the sins of the Saiyans is also him getting over Frieza's effect on him too. Like Frieza's like this demon that just sits on his head, and it's just like, I
Frieza still has a bit of a control on him.
Yeah, I manipulated your entire race into being what they were, and I am the reason that your race became something that you're guilty of.
Exactly, and that would be an interesting plot thread for them to explore because, Resurrection F robbed us of Vegeta defeating Frieza to let us know, like, hey, Goku's the star of Dragon Ball. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still bothered and kind of salty about that, but if they could give us something like that where they finally have Vegeta actually get a W over Frieza, and it's also in a way also very important to his character development, I would be pretty okay with that. I would be fine with that. I just know that right now he's gonna have to find a way to tap into Ultra Ego, like you said, by finding a substitute that's not him reverting back to his evil ways. Because they can't just not have him go back into Ultra Ego. It's the new hot thing. Come on. He's gonna get it again. He's gonna use it again. It's his new thing.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's get into the next part of the summary. Where were we?
We were right here where Eleg was talking about wanting to be the main head of information in the universe, talking about how if he has intelligence and financial power, he could, basically overthrow Frieza in a way. which is very vague because they don't tell us more than that. But
Right.
Bardock wonders if the Heaters are gonna actually betray Frieza, which I guess judging by now where they are in Universe 7 in the present, it hasn't happened yet. But it seems that they're finally gonna execute that plan now. And Granola wakes up, he leaves his house looking for his mom. He sees Bardock's tail, he sees Bardock, he panics and starts yelling Saiyan. And that noise alerts the Heaters, but Monito launches a shockwave, which I think is very cool, and I can't wait to see that. And it causes Granola to go unconscious. Now, I think this is very interesting because do you consider this has to be right? Consider the first time Monito meets Granola, right? They probably never met before this day.
Yeah. It would
So
seem
from
that
this,
way. Yeah.
yeah, it seems that way. So from this moment on, he became his Gramps,
Yeah.
and you come to find out why, which I've already kind of spoiled in my bad, but you kind of find out why. So let's go on. Let's continue reading and talking about this. Basically, where was I? Oh yeah. So basically, Barda gets nervous and he asks Muselli, I don't know how to say her name, and Monito to follow his plan. The Heaters arrive at the house and they see Bardock, who, I can't wait to see this, who's wearing a hooded cloak.
Exactly. Yeah.
Man, you gotta include that image that I posted on Twitter. You gotta include it.
Yeah.
The only man who has shown to be wearing a hooded cloak recently in the world of Dragon Ball in a different continuity is the Warrior in Black in the new Space Time War Saga, where in Super Dragon Ball Heroes. And I did a whole video on it, so make sure you check that out because speculation is to believe that he might be Bardock, Zeno
Yeah.
Bardock, or maybe another Bardock,
I
but
was
it's
thinking
probably Bardock.
he's Bardock from the Chilled special because that special actually came from a really old Super Dragon Ball Heroes promo, and I just think it would be really creative for them to bring him back after all this time, because he was
Man,
like their first baby, and he also is
right.
associated. He's also heavily associated with time travel. It would also make a
Mm.
lot of sense why he's so strong, because he's lived before Planet Plant even evolved to have their modern population, So,
No, I agree, and I just think it's very interesting that either Toyotaro took this idea from Heroes, or the Heroes development team, Wataru Iguchi and his team, already kind of got the gist of where Toyotaro was gonna go with the story, and either saw like a little rough draft or concept art of Bardock in this hooded cloak and adapted it for the Warrior in Black in that new saga of Heroes, the new Space Time War saga. Who knows how this really happened, but it would be cool if Toyotaro was inspired by the Warrior in Black to give Bardock this look in this story. I just had to get that out there.
right.
But but so Elec meets Bardock. So Elec meets him. So he comes in contact with him, right? And he asks him who he is. Bardock tells him that he has found, those survivors and that he's going to kill them. And Elec tells him to do it. And I kind of like that Elec tells him because it's almost like, who are you? You know what I mean? Like, who's Elec to be telling Bardock what to do? And Bardock hesitates, like he doesn't do it. He doesn't attack them. Bardock tells Elec that the Namekians have mysterious powers that they should check out before killing him. And Elec is like, all right, I guess we'll keep the Namekian. But he pulls out his gun and he shoots Granola's mom. He just does it too. He just does it like whatever. He just shoots her. He's like, all right, well, we can't feed both people, so one of you have to go. Boom, and shoots his mother in the stomach. What do you think of that? What do you think of Elec killing Granola's mom?
He is the perfect character to do it, because he's been the puppet master more so than anyone else. That's kind of his theme. He's also the one that, you know, acts like he's Granola's friend, like he's his equal, like he's just using him to, like, you know, do jobs for him because he thinks he's proficient at his job, and like he's had Granola fooled this entire time. Him as a character in particular, So the idea that Alec is the one that killed his mom is perfect. It's just perfect for the story.
Can I just tell you something that's a little bit that kind of adds to the perfection of this connection? This is another parallel to Vegeta and Granola's relationship because Frieza had a control over Vegeta because Frieza killed King Vegeta. Elec has control over Granola because he killed his mom, but Granola doesn't know that.
Right.
Now, man, the parallels in this saga.
I know.
The parallels in this saga, I love that they're very similar callbacks to the Namek saga. And when we get to the portion of Frieza, oh man, does this mean that they're gonna kill Granola? That Elect is gonna kill Granola too? Just
It's
like Frieza
possible.
killed Vegeta?
It's very,
Oh
very, very possible.
man.
And
Oh man. And is Vegeta gonna be the one who takes up the similar role of Goku in the Frieza saga by defending Granola against Elect while Goku takes on Gas?
I think
Oh
Goku will
man.
probably do both. I think Gas and Elec are going to be there together, and I think Granola and Goku are probably going to end up fighting together. One thing that that kind of puts a wrench in all this is the idea that Granola and Goku have not had a conclusion to their story yet. You can argue that possibly Vegeta and Granola's story has come to their conclusion, which I don't agree with that. I think Vegeta
No, I
should.
don't think it has
I
either.
think Vegeta should master Ultra Ego against Granola and prove his point. Um, but Granola specifically told Goku in the last chapter that until he has an offensive strategy against his fighting style, he will never be better than him. When a character says that to another character, that is direct exposition as to the future of the dynamic between those two characters. So I think that before Granola can be killed, he has to have a training session with Goku, and that's another parallel to the Moro arc because that's what happened with Miras. Goku had his training session with Miras, and then right after Miras got killed. So that's what I think has to happen before Granola can die.
Man, it's just there's so many cool ideas that they're playing with now, and there's so many parallels. It just feels like it's like that saying, what comes around goes around, history repeats itself. And it's really showing that here in this saga specifically. And I think that's what makes this story, in my opinion, I think this is one of the more better stories in Super. I know for sure I like this more than the Moro Saga. And it's just they're really playing with like adding depth to the story and adding connective tissue and connecting everything, with Bardock to Goku, with Granola and Vegeta being parallels of each other because they're very similar. And Elect and Frieza having very similar roles in terms of being tyrants who want to control other people. And I just dig that, man. This is kind of like this is gonna be Granola's not so much of him not so much of him saving himself, but it's also him. I guess in a way, yes, it is redeeming himself because he's finally gonna get back at the puppet masters who've done him dirty, and they have done him dirty, man. They've done him dirty by having him work for them without it it being unbeknownst to him that they are responsible for what happened to his home, and it's very similar to what Frieza did to Vegeta, and I dig that.
Right.
I gotta mention that, in the summary, that Bardock attacks the heaters. So Bardock attacks them. He lunges at them for what they did to Granola's mom. And no, Bardock did not sleep with Granola's mom, so get that out of your head. It's not that he has feelings for her or anything, it's not. But he feels responsible and he feels bad because he was actually trying to save them. And it honestly bothered him to see somebody who he had just gotten, acquainted with that he came to know get hurt in front of him. So, I dig that. I dig that side of Bardock, and I dig that right here. Grass, grass, his ass will be grass, but gas creates a protective barrier to stop Bardock's attack. So, this is the first time. we're actually seeing Gas's power. We will be seeing his power soon, but this is the first time we actually seeing what he can do, because up to now we've never seen him throw a ki blast. We've never seen him create any sort of beams or anything. He's just been pure strength and agility and technique. And that's one thing he has over Granola, which kind of funny that, like you said about what Granola said about Ultra Instinct, but it's kind of funny that Gas kind of did a little bit of that against Granola too. And I just think that's funny. I just think that there's so many things in this saga, man. Like, this saga is just honestly pretty damn good.
Yeah, I'm
But
enjoying it heavily. I really
no, I
like.
am too, because there's a lot to grasp and to really like analyze, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like, you can definitely feel the Toriyama influence in the story.
This is almost like him cranking up the Frieza saga, but by going even further.
It's
Like what he
he's making it very clear that he has an objective. He wants to clarify his version of what the Saiyans are. If you want me to be really honest about it, dude, what I think it is, I think when Toriyama first read the script for Battle of Gods, right, and he saw Goku, he saw that they wanted to put Goku in a cape, fighting a creature who was responsible for making the Saiyans evil. He was like, I have to fix the world's perception of Saiyans in Dragon Ball. That's exactly what I think happened. I think he was so upset with what Toei's interpretation of what his character was, and what a lot of the world's interpretation of what his character was, that he was like, I have to fix this. I think he has a goal. I think he has like, he wants to like really hammer home to people what his idea of what Goku's character and the Saiyans are, you know?
No, I agree. Yeah, I remember reading that long time ago that they wanted Super Saiyan God to have a cape, and I just thought that's kind of ridiculous.
They're
Like, why would
trying
you
to
want
make
to add a
Goku into
cape?
Superman, and he literally has made a character specifically to show his critique of that character. You know what I mean? And
And not just that, but he's made it known time and time again that he doesn't view Goku in that way at all. And I
exactly.
just don't know why Toy continues to push that agenda.
Yeah,
Maybe it's to pander to children. I think it's to pander to children,
it could be,
but
but I think they just have a misconception of like what Goku is, because there is like heroic characters in Japan who don't have that quirk where they're just instinctual heroes. You know what I mean? Like it's probably
Mhm.
just taken him a minute to realize like what his actual intentions are with the story. I think Nagamine definitely has a great understanding at this point of what his intentions are for the story, and a lot of the interviews that I read during the Tournament of Power from the directors and the people that worked on the anime, I think Toriyama has done a great job better establishing what his intentions are with Goku's character and the Saiyans. And I think we're just in a new generation where Toriyama is more strict about that specific subject.
No, I agree. I think the staff for Broly, aside from the beautiful animation, they really understood Toriyama's approach to this world, because it adapted, and not only adapted minus, but he even added more to that story. It was, he added the Paragus story. He added King Vegeta's mini story, with him coming to find out. Basically, the King Vegeta and Paragus event, with Broly being sent off, being one story of its own, and then Bardock's with Midas. I think the reason why they reintroduced that in Dragon Ball Super Broly was, like you said, it's Toriyama's way of letting fans know, like, no, this is how I really view Goku and the Saiyans, not them wearing freaking capes, you know what I mean, or trying to be Super
Yeah.
Saiyan gods with freaking look at me, I'm Superman kind of thing. No, and I dig that, and I'm still a little iffy about here minus, be honest, but I do think I appreciate what minus is in Dragon Ball Super Broly, because they kind of do take a little bit of liberty, and I'm pretty sure it's Toriyama adding more dialogue, but you just get kind of like a sense of like how Bardock is in the way he moves and his expressions more so than the manga, and I dig that a lot.
Right.
But aside from that, no, yeah, you're right. I dig that. And um it's time that we reach the final, the final countdown. Final countdown. We get to the final part of the summary, which is part 5. So to summarize part 4, basically, Bardock meets the Heaters. The Heaters want to control. The Heaters basically don't want to go up against Frieza due to his overwhelming battle power, but they have a plan up their sleeves on how they can beat Frieza without having to use hand-to-hand combat. Elec tries to order Bardock around, and he wants the survivors, Monito, uh, Granola, and his mother to be wiped out before Frieza arrives. But they keep Monito alive because of his healing abilities. And Elec shoots Granola's mom. He wounds her, and Bardock is angry by that, and he tries to attack them, but Gas forms a barrier that protects them from his attack. Now, summary part 5 opens up with Bardock taking an advantage of using the smoke as a means for him to escape with Monito and Granola. If that's who he escapes with. I'm pretty sure it's the two of them. No, he escapes with the three of them. He escapes with Granola's mom, Granola, and Monito. And we come to find out that they're hiding in a forest nearby. Monito tries to heal Museli. I really don't know how to pronounce her name, but Museli, but he cannot save her.
I think it's Wesley.
I'm gonna call her Leslie. He tries to heal Leslie, but he can't save her. So the blast that Elec fired at Granola's mom must have been kind of powerful. I honestly wonder if it's one of those regular arm cannons that they have in Dragon Ball. The Frieza Force, the ones that they have.
Yeah.
Or it's a special gun that Elec made on his own.
That would be cool.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be cool. I definitely get like a pirate vibe from them,
Yeah,
So,
no, they're definitely pirates. They're definitely space pirates. I think they're more so space pirates and got the look for that than Frieza, but
Or the Saiyans for that matter.
Or the Saiyans for sure. Yeah, no, they definitely got very, Pirates of the Caribbean look to them.
Yeah.
But they also take a heavy inspiration from BoJack and his gang.
For sure.
So I dig that. But so Bardock now wonders what the hell he's doing.
Yes.
Now, okay, I kind of wonder this part. Is Bardock wondering what he's doing, or is Bardock wondering what Monito is trying to do to help Granola's mom? Because the way it's worded here, this translation,
nah, because
really
he already told him that he could heal. Remember?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, Bardock.
I just thought the translation was weird. It could have been one or the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
it definitely seems like to me like Bardock is just like questioning his decisions. Because why wouldn't he? Like he's in a bad situation at that point. So why wouldn't?
No, you're right. But you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of a plot of a horror movie, kinda. Because Bardock is out here trying to save them, but now they're being hunted. And Bardock is coming to the realization like, oh crap, like I got myself involved with these guys. Now I'm being hunted too. What do I do?
Exactly.
Because it feels very like it feels very inspired, like a horror, very suspense. Yes, thank you. Very suspenseful, like a thriller. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I dig that.
Yeah, they're definitely doing a good job building up tension there.
Yeah, I dig that. Tension in Super for once, like dang, I like that.
Right.
But to get back into it, Elec is very angry. I guess he's very pissed off, and he says that he has no choice but to kill them all. Gas interjects and tells him that he will take care of them, and Elec tells Gas that he can do it. So if you kind of notice, this kind of echoes back to when Elec kind of like gasses up Gas.
Yeah.
He gasses him up so much, and he lets him know like that he is the pride of their family.
Yeah, he's the hype man.
He's the hype man. Elec is the hype man for Gas, but why? Like, what kind of power does Gas have that Elec is just so sure of like, oh no, with my brother on our team, like everything's cool. Like I don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah, that's a good question, bro. I do think he's just ridiculously strong for one thing, but you're right. It does. He is ridiculously confident in him.
And this is, listen, if you remember, I forget what chapter it was, but it was in one of the earlier chapters of the saga when Granola's talking about how the Shugarians moved into their home, and when the planet had been invaded by the Saiyans, and afterwards the aftermath, how the Heaters ended up rebuilding. I think when the Heaters meet the Shugarians, it's this same day,
Yeah.
and we saw a little bit of that. Yeah, this just popped into my head. I'm just out here. I'm just out here connecting. I shouldn't even. Normally, I should be doing a thread on this, but I'm doing a thread right now on here.
Right.
But I'm just connecting, man, because there's so much to connect. But to get back to it, so Elec tells Gas to finish before Frieza arrive, and Gas flies away. Elec asks, and then it goes back to the present. It goes to the present. Elec and Gas talk on the deck of their ship. Elec asks Gas if he remembers what happened 40 years ago, because the guy that Gas fought probably was a Saiyan. Was probably a Saiyan. Now, listen, okay. I don't know if this is a plot hole. I don't know if this can even be considered one, but why didn't Oil tell Gas that the Saiyans they picked up, the Saiyan Goku, looks strikingly familiar to the Saiyan that helped Monito and Granola's mom escape?
That's a very good
Because
question.
Oil was there, and we're gonna see that when the chapter drops, which
Was
is I
he
think
though? Like,
well, if you remember, it says
it
that
says there's four,
Elec
but does he really see him though? You know what I mean? Does
well, yeah,
he?
because Maki tells Elec to be careful since Frieza's a very intelligent.
Yeah, but does he stay? Do they stay with them, or do they just let them go do it? You know what I mean? It
I,
could.
I, I think they're just there
Yeah, it could
because he
be
put
that they
the
just
protect,
let
because he put the
Alec.
protective barrier around them.
Yeah,
Barrier.
I think they just let Alec and Gas probably just go do their thing. You know?
Well, if that's the case, then that would make sense for for Oyo not remembering what Bardock looks like, or maybe even them. But you would think,
Yeah,
how
you
can
would.
you forget that hairstyle? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so iconic. Like it's arguably the reason he has the name Kakarot is because Bardock saw his hair and was like, "It's my boy," and then he gave him that name.
Exactly, and it's been referenced before in Dragon Ball and even in Z2. Like that hairstyle, like it's so out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
But to finish up here, it says right here, like if he remembers what happened 40 years ago, Gas probably fought a Saiyan. Gas tells E like he remembers it and says that that would not happen again. Well, guess what, Gas? It's gonna happen again because the man that you went up against, his son is on the planet, so it's gonna happen again.
right.
And I'm interested. Oh man, I'm interested to see this confrontation because it seems to me that they left this on a cliffhanger. They ended the story, that story in particular, with Gas flying away because they're gonna continue it more in the next chapter,
Yeah, we
and they're
can
gonna
we can
continue it.
definitely assume that everything that happened in this chapter is going to mirror what happens in the future because it definitely seems like that's the case just based on what we're seeing right now because everything just matches up so perfectly. So we
They
can,
left it open. They left it open for a reason.
yeah, for sure. So do you think that the Bardock? Now I thought that the flashback was over, but you're right that they're gonna have another flashback. Do you think that all the Bardock stuff is gonna be done the next chapter?
Oh man, part of me wants to say yes, and part of me wants to say no. I'll start with why I think no. The reason why I think no is because it's like I told you, this is a little mini saga for Bardock, and in a way, it's like Toriyama's trying to bring Bardock's story and Bardock as a character into full circle
Right.
by giving him his own identity and separating him from the lot of Saiyans by showing his good deeds and what he's doing here. And we have to see the battle with Bardock and Gas, if there even is one. There probably is a mini. I wouldn't call it a mini scuffle, but there had to have been a scuffle,
Right.
and we have to see that because that's gonna be detrimental to Gas as a character. Because Gas like Frieza, is probably gonna see Goku's face, and he's gonna be like, "You remind me of that Saiyan that went up against me back then, 40 years ago." And
Right.
it's gonna be mentioned, and then Goku is gonna probably take it personal now, because if you remember in the manga of Dragon Ball, like I said earlier in this video, Goku wasn't told about Bardock directly by Frieza. The only time Bardock was ever mentioned to Goku was by Raditz, but in a negative connotation. Negative connotation. And in the anime, Frieza kind of Frieza tells Goku that he looks like Bardock, or that he reminds him of Bardock, but Goku just brushes it off because anything he hears about his past or of the Saiyans, he kind of just views it negatively because of Raditz
Right.
and you know of Nappa too. And but now he hears about his dad in a positive light. So now either is Goku gonna defend his dad's honor against Gas, or is he gonna be like, what happened between you and my dad was the past, that doesn't concern me.
Right.
You know what I
Probably
mean?
that. Probably that. He probably won't
I'm
fight for
I'm
anybody's honor.
hoping it's that, because Dragon Ball fans will lose their shit if it's anything else.
Well, look,
They will literally lose it and gasp for straws.
I'll tell you something that I would like to see in the chapters coming before we close off. So, Vegeta just found out that Bardock is a kind-hearted Saiyan, and that he attempted to protect these people, right? So, I don't know if Vegeta knows that there was a Saiyan that tried to stand up to Frieza. I don't know if he knows that for a fact, because in the manga, I think he does say it out loud in the anime, but I think in the manga it's kind of suggested that he just says it quietly to himself, like in his mind. So I don't know for a fact that Vegeta even knows that there was a Saiyan who tried to prevent them from being destroyed. Like, I don't know that for a fact.
Mm-hmm.
But
No, that's interesting.
but I do think that it would be ridiculously cool if the trigger for Vegeta mastering Ultra Ego was finding out that Bardock stood up against Frieza.
So you're saying like Bardock rebelling against Frieza serves as an inspiration, or almost like a fuel for Vegeta to tap into Ultra Ego then?
Yeah, I think even just learning about Bardock at all should have a huge impact on Vegeta. But I do think it would be pretty cool, because the the entire reason that Vegeta looks down on other Saiyans is because, and his own people in particular, his dad, his people, is because they didn't stand up for themselves. You know, they just cowered at Frieza's feet. You know, and Vegeta's always he's never been able to stand that about his people or about his father. That was the entire reason that he wanted to be king, because if he was king, they weren't going to be like that towards Frieza. You know what I mean? Like, his dad, whenever he was talking to him in his pod as a baby, was like, "You're going to make Frieza, you know, grovel at your feet." You know, like, that's the way he was raised. You know, he was raised to believe that that's what he was. You know, he was the answer. He was the cure to the disease. You know what I mean? And to know that there was another Saiyan that was an example of what Vegeta himself wanted out of the Saiyans, I just think that that would be very inspirational to Vegeta as a character.
I think
Because it fixes his disappointment with the Saiyan race as a whole, you know? Like, knowing that one of the Saiyans did try to take down Frieza fixes his preconceived notion that they all just rolled over and let Frieza wipe them out, you know?
I agree. I think with what Vegeta comes to find out and what he comes to learn and what he takes away from Bardock's heroic story is in a way gonna help ease his mind about what happened to his home planet as well, and his
For
his
sure.
race. But I also think it's also gonna serve a great deal, because it's probably going to finally allow him to get the jump on Frieza. Because many of the times that Vegeta wanted to get the jump on Frieza or defeat him, he always used the death of the Saiyans as an excuse
Yeah.
for what he was doing. But what if Vegeta wasn't to use that as an excuse anymore, and he wanted to be Frieza
Yeah, he's
because
grown
Frieza is
beyond
evil?
Frieza. Yeah, he's grown beyond. No, just because he
He,
wants to. Just to destroy him. Just to do it. You know what I mean? He doesn't
well,
need a reason.
he was humiliated. Well,
He doesn't need a reason. That's what Beerus is trying to tell him. You don't need a reason for your actions. Just do it because you want to do it. It's like a pure instinctual need. That's instinct. You know what I mean?
Man, he's finally gonna show up at Frieza's doorstep and be like, "Hey, so you know what? I finally decided what to do, and I'm just gonna Hakai you and just Hakai's him right then and there."
Exactly. I
Eh,
100%. We've been talking about it for a long time. Danny's pointed out. Like,
Yeah.
I do see that coming. It would just bring so much relevance to the fact that Vegeta didn't get to take out Frieza last time, and he's going to eventually be the bane of Frieza's existence, and he won't have to worry about staying in hell and suffering for eternity because he's not going to exist at all.
I just think it would be, I think it would be funny if Vegeta's finally in that great mindset. He's finally in that mindset that would allow him to just get the jump on Frieza without holding on to anything of the past. And then Granola comes out of nowhere and just kills Frieza.
Haha, that would be great.
That would
Oh
just
my
be like a.
god.
I can see the Vegeta fans seethe right now thinking of that. Like,
Oh my
and that's so
god.
Toriyama. Like, I can see Toriyama doing that
I
too.
could totally see him doing it.
Like, you think it's really like you think you're finally gonna get to the
Oh my
finish line.
god.
You're almost there, and then you just trip. And that pebble, that rock, was Granola. And
Oh
and
my
Vegeta.
god.
I just think that's comedy. Like,
It
I
would
would
be
love
great.
to
It would
see
be
that. That
such a
would
gag, dude. You're right.
that would be like Resurrection F, but worse because it's not even Goku. It's literally, yeah. No,
I don't think they would do
yeah.
it that way. I think if anything, they would have Granola. I think it would be the opposite. I do think if they did it that way, it would be hilarious, and I agree with you. But I think if anything, it's going to be the opposite. I think Granola, if he tried to take out Vegeta or if he tried to take out Frieza for revenge, he would fail because he was doing that just like Goku did in the past. Because it would just make, or just like Vegeta did in the past. Because it just makes the most sense.
Well,
And
well,
then
I also
Vegeta comes in and
uh-huh.
he actually succeeds because he's not doing it for revenge. So that if they do it that way, they can reinforce the idea that that was Vegeta's problem in the past, and that's a problem that Vegeta has grown past. So they can use
Mhm.
Granola as an example to further implicate that to the story.
Well, it was like I was telling you earlier. I mean, Granola's story bears a lot of resemblance to Vegeta's,
Yeah.
and it bears a lot of parallels. I just feel like, Granola's such a reflection to Vegeta and what he used to be in the past that now him best is like you said before, like him besting him is just his way wanting to overcome the past too of himself,
Right.
wanting to prove that he's beyond that. And that's also why the idea of him having to revert back to his old ways is impossible, is because even Vegeta himself doesn't want to do that anymore.
No.
And it's like a battle within himself. And Bardock Bardock's story, his heroic act, is almost gonna fill that void by showing Vegeta that there's a substitute for that and that he doesn't have to revert to that. He's gonna
He's gonna become
possibly
new and improved.
exactly,
He's
yeah.
gonna be similar to how he used to be. Like, I'm not gonna say he's not gonna be similar to ruthless Vegeta, the evil ruthless Vegeta that we're aware of, because that's what Vegeta interpreted Beerus's lesson as. And when he said he failed at that, that was exposition that is the end goal of Vegeta's character, to become more callous. But I don't think that he's going to be the same. I think he's going to be different because he's not going to be guilty, and he's still going to have gone through everything that he's gone through, and he's still going to have he's still going to care about his family and all this stuff. But it's just he's more so just going to embrace his inner nature, and he's going to. I just don't think he's going to care about proving anything in a fight anymore. Like that's the end goal that I see for. That's the way that I see that he'll be different, is because, if he's not feeling guilty, he doesn't have anything to prove. You see what I'm saying?
No, I get what you mean. I guess it's just interesting to me that right now in this story, the three strongest each have a path of their own that they're on, and they're growing in terms of learning about themselves and their power, and they're all connected by a common enemy, which is the heaters. And I do dig that the story and the way that it developed in these chapters, I really don't think months ago people could have predicted that, oh, the heaters are responsible for Granola's mom's death. They're responsible for just the tragedies.
Yeah,
Maybe, maybe.
Super is in some ways predictable, but they do a good job throwing you off, you know.
I think this time around, I think they were super predictable in the Moral Saga, but this time around they're really trying to subvert the expectations and just leave you upon guessing more and more, and I enjoy that. I think that's what makes this horrible month to month wait for the new chapters a
Worth it,
little
right.
bit easier, a little bit easier on me because they give us they give us a lot of context and they give us a lot of clues for us to just speculate, and I think speculation is very good, and there's also bad speculation for sure, but I think what makes speculation fun is when you're able to, like what we just did, analyze and kind of just realize that there's a lot of themes in the story, and while it's still developing, we're gonna come to find out more about Granola, more about how he thinks. We're gonna see Vegeta's growth and his journey to Ultra Ego, and we're gonna see how this, because I'm pretty sure I mentioned this before, how what Goku found out about Bardock and how Bardock was a good Saiyan, how it'll affect him mentally, and how it'll change his point of view going even further when he comes back to meet Broly.
Yeah, he'll be proud
How,
of being Kakarot, right?
proud of being Kakarot, and proud of being a Saiyan even more.
Right.
Yeah.
I
So
do
no,
think
I think
I do
I think the
think
story is doing pretty good.
yeah, I do think that I think there's a difference between speculation and making up your mind before the chapter's even released. You know what I mean? Like a lot of these people when they do their speculation, they're not actually doing it in a format where it seems like speculation. They're just like, this is trash right off the bat. You know what I mean? Like they're not actually speculating. They've already made up their mind before they ever even started speculating. You know what I mean? So
No, I definitely know what you mean, and I think people should be more open to at least giving. If you really don't like the chapters, then it's something that didn't resonate well with you, and that's totally
yeah, it
understandable.
is
Like
what
I
it
get
is.
it. That everyone's different. You
Yeah,
perceive the
exactly.
content differently. It's perfectly normal. But if you're gonna trash it without even seeing the chapter in its entirety, with the panels and how they're drawn and how they're executed, you're full of
Yeah,
crap.
yeah, you're giving it away,
And
bro.
yeah,
You're giving it
you're just
away.
you're just trying to fish for likes, or you're just trying to like be like, I don't want to be part of the hype, you know what I mean? And that's all fun and cool, but it's okay,
Harvesting salt. You're harvesting salt is what you're doing.
yeah, you're harvesting saw, and in a way, if you really don't care for Super, then why do you come back every month
Well,
and
you
try to
know,
figure out what's going on? You know
it's
what I
like I
mean?
say, it's a lot of these people really do care about Dragon Ball way more than they claim to. You're definitely not
But
wrong
I,
about that.
but I do want to say this though. It's like, however you feel about Toriyama's Bardock, or how you feel about Koyama's Bardock, I know that people don't want to accept his new version because of what it does to Goku's character and what it does to Bardock as a whole. But you have to remember that the special was written by Takao Koyama. Toriyama literally had no involvement other than doing character designs.
Exactly.
And and he loved the special. Yes, he loved it so much that he promoted it in the official material. You're right, he did, and he used Nakatsuru's Bardock design with the bandana,
Yeah.
and that's all cool and all, but as the creator of the manga, are you gonna tell him that no, you cannot change what you already wrote? Because if you want to get into that, we can talk about Marvel and DC, pal, because they do that crap all the time. Like they
Exactly.
do
Well,
it all the time.
it's
So
like we said before. It's just like he's obviously making a point of framing the story in a way that he prefers, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that as the creator of the series. And
yeah,
I actually prefer the way he's framing it now. I know a lot of people don't, but I just think it's very important that it's established that Goku is the type of character that Toriyama is framing him as this point, because it fixes a lot of the criticism of some of the stuff that he said about Goku's character in the past, because people try to claim that like he's saying that Goku's bad, And he's not. Actually, because Goku is an instinctual protector and an instinctual fighter, he's actually the greatest example of good that there is in the East. You know what I mean? Like, he is more heroic than anybody in the West. Superman, anyone else. And that's the reason that that's the reason his intention was to make Goku's character this way, is because to be like Superman is to be wrong in Toriyama's mind. So, like, yeah, I'm glad that he's going out of his way to push this plot point, push this message, and fix people's perception of the character, because I feel that it's 100% necessary. I just think that it's something that needed to be done. These concepts need to have light shown on them, and I just, that's the reason I'm so happy about it. That's the reason I'm not upset at all like most people, is because I'm glad that all these misconceptions are being cleared up.
No, I agree. And I mean, look, I was iffy about Bardock being brought back because I'm not a fan of fan service unless it's Heroes, because in Heroes they do it exceptionally well. But I'm not a fan of fan service, especially when Dragon Ball Super is supposed to be the official continuation of Dragon Ball.
Right, yeah, there's a difference between enjoying something that's just a cool, fun side project that Toei's and Bandai are in charge of, and just like the actual story by the creator. Of course it's going to be held to a higher standard. Why wouldn't it be? You know what I mean?
And it is. No, you're right, and it is. But at the end of the day, I think people look. If you love Koyama's if you love Koyama's Bardock, that's great. I do too. But I'm interested now. I don't want to see the same story again. I don't want to see the same Bardock special being retold in numerous video games and only mentioned once in the Dragon Ball manga, whereas in different continuity specials like episode of Bardock, or in video games like Xenoverse 2, Fighters, Heroes, they reference Koyama's they reference Koyama's Bardock. Why? Because that's where they use that version of that character the most.
Right.
So Toriyama was like, okay, well, I want to tackle Bardock now because I have Super as an outlet to be able to do it, just like I did with the Jocko manga. And I feel like with what I did with Dragon Ball Minus, since people didn't like Dragon Ball Minus, because I'm pretty sure he got criticism for it. He definitely got it.
Yeah.
People didn't like what I did with Bardock's character there. Well, now I want to
flesh it out
and give them the character I get to give them then. Right. And that's what he's doing with Super. That's what he's trying to do. And I think people should be more open-minded and leave the notions of the original Bardock from the special at the door and just check this new one out. And if you don't dig it, well, it's not for you, and that's understandable. And I don't think people should get into an argument or fight over this, because at the end of the day, it's a manga series.
Yeah, it's perspective.
It's a cartoon.
Yeah.
And
everybody prefers what they prefer. And it's just like, I may not prefer the original version of Bardock. And, I understand why people do. I made that clear earlier in the podcast, or in this episode. But, yeah, like, I understand why people feel that way. I just have my real reasons for feeling the opposite. And I just think people should respect either decision. You know what I mean? And with that, I'm going to leave off. We're at 2 hours and 12 minutes. I'm going to end the video. This has been Dragon Lee and Syn the Cerealite. We hope you enjoyed the video, and we will catch you guys in the next one. Hope you have a good day.
Later.